The Toronto Raptors are not perfect. They sometimes sign guys who don't work out, trade away guys who sulk on their way out, and like any team in the NBA, they have disruptions and disagreements within their locker room. But until last week, those disruptions and disagreements usually stayed in-house. Last week, ahead of the game against the Orlando Magic, it leaked to the press that the Raptors had held a team meeting following the loss to the Brooklyn Nets, initiated by Fred VanVleet, Pascal, Siakam, and Thaddeus Young. The topic of this meeting was misreported as being about getting off to better starts after the Raptors surrendered back-to-back 40-point first quarters. We won't get into what the meeting was actually about, but let's move on. Yesterday, Michael Grange dropped a bombshell article in which he revealed that Raptors president Masai Ujiri had to have a difficult conversation with Scottie Barnes following his game against the New Orleans Pelicans. And he gave the reigning Rookie of the Year some, quote, hard truths. Can you hear me shaking my head? This follows an offseason dominated by OG Anunoby and Kevin Durant drama, and some fans are left wondering, how does the team that never leaks anything suddenly leak everything? Woj and Shams don't know who we're drafting or signing, but somehow Michael Grange got wind of a private meeting which happened behind closed doors. Something stinks about this. So I wanted to bring on a friend of mine who has covered the Sacramento Kings for the last 9 years in the media space to give Raptor fans some insight into what is possibly going very wrong for the Toronto Raptors right now. Welcome, Pensare basketball fans, to a special conversation with Leo Beas. Leo has covered the Sacramento Kings since 2013. Unfortunately, just we were discussing it, he's never covered the playoffs, but it's going to happen this year. I can feel it. Like some stuff has been going on with the Toronto Raptors lately, and it hasn't been great. And this is one of the most notoriously leak-free organizations, one of the most tight-lipped organizations, to the point where Adrian Wojnarowski and Shams usually do not know, almost never know, who we're going to draft. Never heard anything about where Kawhi was going. Didn't hear these things.
What's crazy is that Shams has a little bit more insight into the Raptors than Woj does, which is incredibly difficult to do.
That is difficult. And yet, when they were tweeting out who the Raptors were going to pick at 33, they drew blanks. The only person who has conclusively known who the Raptors are going to draft the last 2 years has been me, because I congratulated Scottie like 6 hours before his draft, and I did the same with Christian Koloko. But in all honesty, it's troubling to see that a team meeting last weekend before the Orlando game was leaked. Supposedly, and according to multiple sources, it was Fred VanVleet, Pascal Siakam, and Thaddeus Young who led that meeting or initiated that meeting, and some stuff was discussed. And today...
Was that the first leak ever that you've covered, like in the last 10 years?
About a team meeting? Yeah. And it's okay, like, here's the thing.
For me, it's normal. That's why I'm like,
and that's exactly why you're here. So because you are in the media space, we're going to get into that. We're going to talk about, how these things happen, how players finesse favors and stuff. But I will tell you that, yes, some stuff does get out from the Raptor space, but usually way after it happens. So you'll hear stuff about what Kyle Lowry did in 2019, in 2020. And usually at that point, it's way too far in the past to even care about it. It doesn't really impact Kyle. It doesn't really impact anybody. I hear conversations now, today, things are being leaked about what Kawhi said in the locker room during the championship run. Yeah, that's 3 years ago. It doesn't really matter now. But it wasn't happening then. But it is happening now about things that are happening right now. And I found it really crazy today that Michael Grange of Sportsnet pretty much delivered a hit piece on Scottie Barnes today. Now, maybe I'm overly sensitive. Did you read it?
Well, you've told me about it, so I don't even want to waste my time, because I know Scottie, his background, and to me, it's just way too silly, man. Yeah, I mean, it's the second year. Come on.
It is the second year, but it's, look, these stigmas they carry, right? I was around the circles when Vince was being covered, and I know that he rubbed a few people the wrong way. And the way the media turned on him and the stories that came out after he left, and once that tag is on you, it's impossible to get out, right? Once somebody, starts questioning your love for the game, you've taken it too far. You've taken it past box scores. And what this Michael Grange piece led to me, as I was telling you before we were on air, that if I read this without knowing him, without knowing anything about him, if I was a casual, if I just really wasn't really watching him too intently, I would walk away from reading this article thinking Scottie Barnes doesn't care about basketball, which
And
I
it's
think
your
is just
obligation, my obligation, to always shed light and bring context, because as you said, too many people take things for face value, read a headline or read like 2 paragraphs, and they automatically assume that this guy is a bum, which is super unfortunate. But that's a society that we live in today.
absolutely. And I mean, it's the power of words. It's the power of words. And, if you're a gifted storyteller and if you're a gifted
Mhm.
writer, and a lot of people who do cover the league have extensive sports journalism backgrounds, writing backgrounds, you can make someone look really bad for something that's almost completely innocent and just um, and it's the underhanded stuff. It's like a guy will say, look, we're not being critical of this guy,
Right.
but it's always after the but. It's that stuff after. And I know when it's fair and when it's
Hmm.
not fair.
For
So
sure.
I can be fair about Scottie's game last night and say that he didn't look fully engaged. There might still be some stuff going on
Sure.
with him. But this is a 21-year-old player. There's no reason to write an article about that necessarily, but the way that it's being written. So let's talk about this. So specifically covering the Sacramento Kings, right? With
Hmm.
all the stuff that's happened, all the player turnover that's happened, I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that gets out to the media that is
Yeah.
literally put out for your benefit so that you can write about it. So let's talk about player media relationships. Do you have any insight into, like, because I've covered the league a bit, but you're currently covering the
Right.
league, so I think it's more present to hear from you.
So I started covering the Kings as an intern in 2013. I was a sophomore at the University of Nevada, Reno. Go Wolfpack. And I started making the drive 3 hours from Nevada to California, which is home for me. I'm from Stockton, so I would make that drive and make the sacrifices to get into the media, start doing what I love, because I was doing local newspaper at the time. I was doing local TV in Spanish while being a college student, so that was my opportunity to get in, get my feet wet per se, and I did. I got an opportunity just to write, control some blog that doesn't exist anymore. But that really, you know, allowed me to build relationships, to meet the PR team, and that's how you kind of started getting access. You start writing all these articles while still going to school, still learning the craft, right? While you're doing this stuff. Obviously, it's a lot more difficult now to even get into the media just because the limit of access. They've really cranked down on who gets access, and fortunately for me, I got in early enough to where, in a way, I'm kind of like a seasoned vet where I can attend any event I want, NBA wise. I mean, I'm credentialed all over the NBA, so um, but I also worked hard for that too. But yes, media is literally relationship based, and I try my best because I feel like we all have a bias towards somebody or a team, or if someone says no, they're lying to you. Everyone has a bias towards something, but it's always your obligation to be as fair as possible. So you can go into a locker room, and just start to have conversations with players off the record, and that's kind of how you start building a relationship, or maybe talking to their manager or people within close to that circle of theirs. And a lot of NBA players have real tight circles, and you try to build relationships with them.
Exactly. And, I think you and I have both built some relationships throughout the league with certain players, their trainers, their
Coaches, yeah.
coaches, exactly. And so you do hear some stuff that maybe, you have an obligation, and maybe, there's a sort of temptation. Do I sit on this, or do I put this out? And
Mm,
look, I think we can both agree that through the 90s, Jordan had some pretty favorable relationships with the media because
sure.
there's a lot of stuff they sat on. Kobe had a lot of stuff, they sat on it. The team can protect the player only so far, right? But at the end of the day, the media does have the discretion to run something.
Right.
And, if I walk into the Toronto Raptors locker room and Scottie Barnes is a moody, pouty guy, and maybe Gary Trent Jr. wants to talk to me, I might remember that the next time I'm writing a piece about Gary's shooting struggles and Scottie's shooting struggles, and I might just overemphasize. And so I've just noticed that there are certain players that are just unwilling to deal with the media or give the media the story that they want. And
I
one
was
thing I,
guilty of that with like Russell Westbrook. with Blake Griffin. For whatever reason, they were just jerks when I used to go into the opposing locker rooms. And again, you're right. Like we're all, to some degree, we take that into account, and it's unfortunate. But if they're having a bad day, and that's the first time that you meet them, like they say, like first impressions matter.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like a lot of those guys, they had media training at some point. Maybe they had a
Right.
bad experience. Maybe they're having a personal issue or whatever, and then it just kind of
Mhm.
translates. And for all of Scottie's greatness, I don't think he's great with the media. Personally, I don't think
Okay.
he's finessed. He's not political. He doesn't have a
Right.
political bone in his body. He's a very sincere and good human being. And you've seen him up close.
That's why I like him.
That's exactly why I like him
Because he's
too. And
genuine. Like he's not gonna hold back. And the same with Buddy Hield, who I got to spend a week with in the Bahamas. A lot of people don't like him because literally the culture over there is to speak your mind. So you either love him or you hate him. And sometimes the things he says translates the wrong way. And I think a little bit of that is happening with Scottie Barnes because he's so honest and he's so genuine that these guys speak their minds. And sometimes it won't translate the political correct way, right?
exactly. But then you have, on the complete flip side, you have Fred VanVleet, who is
Very
the
political.
most politically savvy, most
He is.
well-spoken. He's
Yeah.
so incredible. Like he is like, I have seen him insult the media underhandedly. Like he was talking about being a basketball elitist last year, and
Mhm.
someone in the media asked, like, "So you don't want to discuss basketball with us?" And he's like, "No, no, I don't. No shade to you guys, but there's levels to this." The undertone
He's
of
not
that,
lying though. I mean, he's
he's
not
not
lying.
lying. Oh,
There's a
that's a
lot of
hundred.
media members that are just oblivion to the game of basketball.
Absolutely, but to be able to, but to be able to, this is sincerely the thing, right?
Yeah.
Kevin Durant would handle that exact sentiment by saying, "You're an idiot. You're an
Mhm.
idiot. You don't know basketball," and then he'd walk out, and then the
Mhm.
media would hate him for the next year. Fred VanVleet can tell you you're an idiot to your face, laugh it off, have you laugh it off. That's charm. That's brilliant. I think there's a lot of players like that,
He's a
and
future politician.
he is a future politician, mayor of Rockford coming up.
There
So
you
here's
go.
my thing. Like, I think that it is very weird to see these leaks coming out. And I'm not saying that it's, Fred or whoever it is,
Sure.
but I am saying that it's weird. And I'm wondering about the timing of it, right? There's a lot of speculation that there's turmoil going on with the Raptors, and it's not all kumbaya right now. They just dropped the game to the Magic. They've,
I
frankly,
lost a lot of money, but it's so good.
I made a lot of money. So yeah, I mean, but
Oh,
like,
real quick. So Fred VanVleet, when I saw it, he did unfollow uh the people that was reported and then he refollowed. Are you with that sentiment?
no. So he unfollowed very selectively. He unfollowed everyone except for his own brand merch. He he
Thank
he
you. And then he
he,
changes the his picture and then he actually followed the Raptors again, right?
he followed the Toronto Raptors team, and then he followed selectively certain players. I mean, I can check right now to make sure that everything I'm saying is current, but last I checked, he was following 23 players or 23 accounts. Toronto Raptors, Darnell Lamar, Joe Buckets, Kyle Lowry, DeMar DeRozan, Mark, Pascal, Fly Guy Films, Kiefer Simpson, Aramis. I know all of these guys.
Right.
These are his boys, like from
No
back in the
Scottie
day. There's
Barnes, huh?
no Scottie Barnes. He's following Malachi Flynn, Norman Powell, Chris Boucher, OG Anunoby. No Scottie Barnes. Also unfollowed Nick Nurse, which is kind of ironic. I don't want to get too deep into this because I really don't care who he follows or unfollows. But he had
Sure.
this whole thing about, oh, he was trying to correct the algorithm because he keeps seeing a whole bunch of stuff that he doesn't want to see, and he thought that unfollowing everybody would make that better. But my question is, so why did you choose to follow back those people and not Delano
Right.
Banton, Ken Birch? Like, these guys all have Instagram accounts. You're not going to follow your own team. That's kind of weird to me personally, but it's not really about that. It's about all the other stuff that's been happening. It's the body language on
Right.
the court. When have you ever seen a Raptor team coached by Nick Nurse that didn't try on defense? Like, that's what we saw against Orlando. We saw seeing bad body language. We're seeing guys sitting on the bench. Like, I've seen guys scoring, like last year. I mean, you've seen Scottie at Florida State. when have you ever seen Scottie not be up and be the loudest person on the bench? I've seen
Effort.
him
Yeah.
dance at Montverde. Like, this guy is whipping towels. Like, he was the most animated guy on the bench. So at this point, I'm like, okay, something is happening here. And I found it very crazy that last night, obviously, Fred VanVleet takes that shot against Orlando, which is just, it was the talk of, everybody was talking about it for about 5 hours, right? That everyone went to sleep. And this morning, we are introduced to an article about Scottie Barnes by Michael Grange, an article about Scottie Barnes from Dave
Mhm.
Feshik. That's the Toronto Star. That's Sportsnet. And then there was another Sportsnet article about, 10 things about the Toronto Raptors. And then introduced right in the middle is, Scottie Barnes isn't trying. Scottie Barnes doesn't do this, that. So what I'm wondering is, what do you think's happening here?
Maybe there are some favors that are going on right now with this guy, Michael Grange. I'm not gonna just clear cut say that, but a lot of that stuff does happen in the media. A lot of it is agent driven, believe it or not. These guys, get the tip of the hat and the news leak so that they can report it first by the agent. And sometimes, Messiah and Bobby, they have their select people of who they want to talk to. And I don't know who those people are, but typically a GM does kind of use the media at times and select media at that. So either this guy is, trying to help the representation or the agency that helps Fred, which I forget who he's under. I think he's under CAA if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Um, I don't know. I just don't understand this perceived narrative of trying to bring down Scottie. Like, is he trying to prove a point to where, or did like Scottie, disrespect him in a way, like in the locker room? I don't know why he would do that to argue. I mean, it's not even a question. Like the future of the Toronto Raptors. You know what I'm saying? Like why would he do that? He's a second year kid. He's very likable. He's very genuine.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird. It's
Well,
weird.
let me read you an excerpt from the article. I think this will help. Quote, he was benched for the first regular season game of his career nearly 2 weeks ago against the Cleveland Cavaliers, the Raptors' best defensive effort of the season, in brackets. Nice little, hit right there. He was benched, and look, they had the best defensive effort of the season after a long stretch of uninspired play, and responded with the worst game of his career against the New Orleans Pelicans in a Toronto Raptors blowout loss. It was at that point that Barnes was given some hard truths by Raptors president Masai Ujiri, according to multiple sources, during a meeting when the team was in Brooklyn.
That should have stayed in house for sure. And those conversations, believe it or not, go on all the time. Like that's not breaking news by any means. And the fact that he found that out makes me believe that it had to come from somewhere close to like Fred's side, just to bring down some of the heat that he's taking.
But what's interesting is just the verbiage, the word
Sure.
benched, right? He came off the bench, and according to Nick Nurse, according to everybody, and it was a one-game thing. They did not want to introduce too many guys coming back from injuries into the lineup at the same time, and so Scottie and Gary
Was he on
Trent
the
Lewis.
restricted minutes?
No, he was not. I think he
Hmm.
played over 30 minutes. I could be mistaken, but he did not start the game, and it was basically they started Juancho, Thad, Pascal in the front court, and I think that was very interesting and sort of telling because Nick Nurse defended it by saying, "Hey, previous time, I think it was in the Tampa year, we brought back a whole bunch of guys at once, and it completely tanked the offense. So this time, because we're bringing back Pascal, we didn't want to bring back Pascal and Gary and Scottie because they were all injured the previous game, and that was I think the
But
thing.
hasn't Gary came off the bench regardless?
No, Gary had been starting for most of the season. That was the first game that he came off the bench, and he stayed on the bench, and Scottie was reintroduced. What I do think
Since
that
that game, right?
So Scottie started the very next game. He
Right.
was back in the starting lineup. He after the media was pressing him for a quote on it after the game. They said, "How did you feel coming off the bench?" And he just sort of shrugged it off, like he did that thing that he does where he just mumbles when he didn't have anything to say. He's like, you
Mhm.
know. And they were just pushing him so hard to just go out and say, "I hated it." And I mean, you don't have to be a body language expert to know he didn't love it. But that I think was interesting to use the word benched. When I say this guy was benched, what do you hear?
This guy's a bum.
Number one, that, but number two, when the interpretation of the word benched, when you say this guy was benched, you
It's a
assume
demotion.
it's a demotion, number one, not a temporary thing to introduce
Mm-hmm.
Pascal into the lineup. So that is just twisty by Grange. The second thing is when I hear someone was benched, I hear they started the game and at some point they got glued to the bench and didn't come back off. That's when I hear benched.
The
I
power
don't
of
hear
words.
exactly. I don't hear this is the first game he didn't start. Because if I'm reading this and I don't remember the Cleveland game, then
Mm-hmm.
I assume that the Raptors' best defensive effort of the season was without Scottie Barnes, that he did not play that game. Benched,
Which is ridiculous.
which is ridiculous because he did play that game. So I think that this is just it is very powerful, twisty, stuff. And I'm happy to have you on, you on to discuss like what might be happening here. In terms of like NBA politics, right?
Right.
Like players, like you've covered the league long enough. I've definitely gotten wind of a lot of this. How often do you think players don't like each other on the same team?
All the time, bro. All the
Exactly.
time. And there's a difference too. Some players might like each other outside of the court, and some players might just hate playing with each other. And on the court, there's no chemistry, but off the court, they could be cool. You know what I'm saying? So it's a weird dynamic. It's not home by law. It's not what people think is all the time. It's just it's the same as your AAU team. There's egos involved. There's money involved. That's what's gonna happen. Just like in real life, where you work in the environment, you don't always like your coworker, but you still show up to work.
Absolutely. And that's always how I try to frame it for people. It's like, do you like your boss? Do you like,
Sure.
why do we always assume that, because the Raptors are a generally functional organization? I mean, they have been functional for so long, but yet they've only been functional on the surface. Kyle
Sure.
ghosted the front office. Kawhi didn't want to be here initially when he got traded here. There's a lot of dysfunctional stuff. There have been dudes who've beefed over the role, beefed over minutes. I think Malachi Flynn's dad was like all over Facebook talking
Yeah.
about, he talked shit about Nick Nurse and called him
Yeah.
Nick Nursery. I
Yeah.
mean, my God, man, like this is life. Like these are human beings. They all have hoop dreams. Every single one of these guys wanted to be a starter at some point. Some of them are getting DMP CDs. Some of them are coming off the bench. Some of them aren't getting touches. And this is sort of the problem of running like a team with a lot of young guys, especially when you have veterans that maybe those guys don't see as like Kevin Durant level superstars, where I'm like, all right, if I'm benched and KD's on my team, I'm okay with it a little bit. But if I'm benched and I'm watching Fred VanVleet shoot like 2 for 12 and that guy plays my role and I think I could play, I would have issues too, especially if my coach is telling me, this guy playing 42 minutes a night is the only way we're going to win. I think that's sort of like rubbing some dudes the wrong way. I don't know anything really. I don't know any of the inner circle of Delano Banton and Jeff Doughton, so I can't tell you, or Malachi Flynn, so I can't like say with confidence. But
that was an issue with the Kings too when they had Marvin Bagley, the number 2 pick. Fans
his dad, right?
Yeah, but the thing is, fans will always automatically say this guy has to start because he's the number 2 pick. I'm always on the side of no. You have to earn that spot because there is team dynamics, right? Mm-hmm. There are veterans in that locker room that are like, I'm better than that dude. So when that happens and you start losing games, then you start having problems because now the veteran thinks he's better than the self-proclaimed number 2, number 5, whatever the pick is. And from a team perspective, or from a front office perspective, they want to see the young player play, but the coach wants to win games, so he's more comfortable playing the veteran. And all these variables come into effect, and now the media is either saying one side of the story or another side of the story. And that's where you get all these different reports, and that's where you get all these fights on the Facebook groups.
Absolutely, but I also think like having guys like Marc Gasol, having guys like Kawhi Leonard, exactly, guys who have like really done some shit in the league, who come in and they can settle people down by saying, listen, I'm on board with this, so you're on board with it by default. Shut up and, stay
Who's
in your
that
lane.
guy right now for the Raptors?
Thaddeus Young. Thaddeus Young.
Has he proved? Does he have like that Marc Gasol, personality, Marc Gasol success rate to you?
Well,
like, does he command that much respect like a Marc Gasol, in your opinion, right now?
I think Gasol commanded more respect, number
sure.
one, just because he was just so big. I think there's a sort of association between height and perceived width and just the size of a human being. But I think also because of the fact that he was the defensive player of the year, that accolade carries a great deal of merit,
100%.
even if, we could probably argue he didn't deserve it that year. But,
sure.
Like he's consistently been great. He has gold medals. Like he's represented Spain on the international level. He is a widely regarded, top 3, top 4 center in the league. And when you have ever reached that apex as a player in your career, like right now, if you were to trade for, I don't know, hypothetically, Carmelo Anthony, that guy would have like an element of gravitas to him, even though he's not in the league right now. If he walked in and he said some stuff, unless you have like a team like that's just like the Boston Celtics, maybe, he's not going to have much weight in that locker room. But in a locker room like the Toronto Raptors, he would own that locker room in 12 seconds. Like it's just that's the weight that being mellow carries in your locker room, and that's sort of my perception of it. But do I think Thaddeus Young has Carmelo Anthony weight? No, but he is a strong, confident individual. He is a very level-headed dude. He's extremely fair and rational, and I think he really connects with Scottie and OG. He has like long ties to OG, and OG and Scottie are really connected. So I think that when he came here last year, Scottie was in a bit of a slump in December. I don't know if you remember that, but it was like his worst month of the season. He was coming off a bit of an injury. He was adjusting to Pascal being back in the lineup and kind of got relegated to 5th option. Then he had that sort of hilarious all-star break, that fumble thing with Tyrese Maxey. And then he came out like gangbusters, and they made that trade. And I think that really ignited him. And I know privately through conversations that I've had that Thaddeus Young was just like, no, this guy, he's super talented. Like the way he saw him started to reflect how the team saw him. And when you have a guy like that come in and be like, I really believe that this guy is super talented, but it's like when I hear people around the league talk about Scottie, like for instance, there was a writer from The Ringer who was on William Liu's podcast, and Will Liu is one of our media guys over here. Yeah. And this is hilarious, right? You're gonna appreciate this. So they were talking about what would you put together right now for Kevin Durant, and that's what the Ringer guest asked Will Liu, and he said, well, Pascal Siakam's off the table, which I mean, I was just like, go to hell, right? And then he's like,
Will said that.
Yeah, Will said that Pascal Siakam's off the table. He's a very big Pascal Siakam fan. He wrote this very passionate piece today about how Pascal is all alone out there and no one's helping him, and he's the greatest player. This is what the media does here, man. And
it's like that everywhere, though. I mean, like I said, favoritism towards certain guys. We all have biases.
I feel like Boston's media is a little bit like I have my own issues with Boston.
Media is the worst. Like those guys carry 11 deep. That's the only media that travels, by the way. They have like TV station 1, 2, 3, 4 all across the front row. I mean, it's ridiculous. Like, bro, you don't have to come in Toronto or to Sacramento and carry all these dudes. You know what I'm saying?
That's funny. I mean, I've sometimes found them to be really insightful and intelligent, but I like some media. Like I don't think all of them are like this, but some are. And then so he was asked, and he's like, and then he presented this idea of bringing Scottie into that trade for Kevin Durant, and then he rejected it himself. He's like, yeah, but Scottie, the Nets probably say no because they already have Ben Simmons, and that's just it's all the overlapping skill sets. And I'm like, bro, Scottie's hit 5 threes in a game this year. Ben Simmons hasn't hit 5 threes in 3 seasons. Are we kidding here? Like, what is the overlapping skill set? You don't think that, I mean, if I'm a team, and this is, like just hypothetically, and I could have Scottie Barnes and Ben Simmons in the same lineup.
I would love that.
I mean, yeah, the spacing wouldn't be great, but oh my God, like the positional versatility.
No, I mean, just put 3 really good shooters around them.
Exactly. I mean, like that's not a terrible problem to have.
No.
And just the idea that he would that he still has this idea. And so I think one of the other things I wanted to talk about was anchoring bias. So the thing we sort of already touched on it with, your interaction with Russell Westbrook or Blake Griffin. There are a
Mhm.
couple players I remember in 2007 that rubbed me the wrong way, and it took a really long time for me to shake that impression of them. So if you're covering the team, covering the Raptors, you know what happened around Scottie's draft. There was a lot of secrecy around it. Everyone started writing all of these hype up articles about Jalen Suggs. And it has been my long-standing suspicion that because they were so critical of Scottie in the pre-draft process, they overlooked him, they didn't talk about him. I was literally the only one, like one of the only people screaming. It was me and basically David Thorpe, right? And maybe like I think it was a Chad Ford. It was very few people who were like, Scottie Barnes needs to be somebody that the Raptors look at. And so afterwards, they kind of all look like clueless. You know, it'd be like if you're sitting there like, oh, we're gonna draft this guy, and then the Raptors pass on him, and you've spent like you've got number one, you have 5 months of sorry, 5 weeks of research on that specific guy. You've probably already interviewed his family at some point. You've dug into him. You've probably already got your article written out, and you
Yep.
just need to fill the quotes now. So this
Yep.
is super annoying. But now you've also got the awkward, transition gap of what you've been telling everybody, that this guy sucks for 4 weeks, and that the Raptors won't even look at him because he's super
100%.
raw. So now it's like the first 3 days of Scottie being drafted, all these media guys, all the questions they were asking were so why did you decide to take this massive risk? Why did
And
you
then he
decide?
wins Rookie of the Year.
And then he goes and wins Rookie of the Year. So then they finally they put out their publications, and dude, to anyone watching this, please go back and read Sportsnet's coverage of Scottie Barnes' pick, and tell me
I
where
remember.
in their article they wrote that he was even a top 3 contender for Rookie of the Year. No, what they wrote and what a lot of the media wrote was, this is a raw was on the
I
national
had him
stage in
number
grade 8.
2 on my big board. That's how
Yeah,
confident I was.
exactly. We were both super high on Scottie,
Jesus. I
and
almost put him number 1. I was so
right,
close. I was
and
so close.
and the idea that you then present this guy now as a concession prize, right? And Toronto Raptor fans, like, they were just reading the coverage, so they booed the pick. There was a draft party. There was an entire patio that was like, "What? Boo! This guy that the media convinced me was terrible," right? So now the media doesn't look so credible anymore. So then they rewrite the articles and they say, "Okay, well, we passed on Jalen Suggs, who's going to be a fantastic player, by the way, and by the way, that hasn't worked out super well, and we've got this very raw player that you're going to have to be really patient with, and he's probably not going to start, and he's probably not going to put up big. Oh shit! Starting on opening night. Oh no, Boston Celtics 23 points. Oh my god. Okay, it's a fluke. It's a fluke. So in the first time he hits a rough patch in December, suddenly
See, I was right.
but they don't say they were right. What they do is underhanded. They say, it's okay. He got off to a hot start, but this is the rookie wall. He's hit the rookie wall. Every rookie, it happens to everyone. Now people have figured him out. And then what happens? Puts up like 31 points against the Lakers, gangbusters throughout the second half of the season, wins Rookie of the Year. Now people are like, okay, we have no choice but to just get behind this guy. So they start, making campaigns, win Rookie of the Year. Great. It's popular now. Scottie's popular. They're popular. The ads are coming out. And he wins Rookie of the Year. He goes down in the playoffs. They lose. Everyone's hyped all off season. And then he comes out and he struggles. And all these guys, they're like, I was right all along. He sucks. He can't shoot. They're seeing what they want to see. So I'm curious. I know this has happened to me with certain players. Has this happened to you with certain players, where you just anchor yourself into how you felt about them originally and just keep trying to look for a way to make that narrative fit?
Well, let's use the Marvin Bagley narrative, right? If
Mm-hmm.
you go back into my 2018 pre-draft videos, which there are plenty of, I feel like I was so spot on with my pre-draft analysis video of him, and my God, like, it's gross how accurate it was. And then I also, in the same breath, because he was the only top guy to work out for the Kings, I did a very like a cinematic positive piece about him, but I left it open quote where will he be the next superstar or the next star? But I never gave my opinion on it. So that was like the most positive spin that I could have put it, because I was just in so much denial, and I was like, hell no, he's not going to get drafted because Luka's so much better. He has no reason to be drafted. He's not even the best big man in this draft. I had Jaren Jackson number 2 on my big board, and then I had Aiden after him. So yeah, so for him, when they drafted him, and I found out the day before, I was sick to my stomach. I knew it was a mistake. And that narrative never changed, but I felt like I was really fair with him in the sense that he never got better. Again, injuries really derailed him. But my thing is, if you are on the bench for a long period of time as a basketball player, and this is all you have to do, like this is your professional, you don't have to wake up for class at Duke and half-ass your class and get passed by a professor. Like you literally got to focus just on basketball, and you don't get better. Like you still can't go right, not even a little bit. Like you still can't put 2 moves in the post together. Like those things concern me, right? I was like, you know what? I'm gonna give him a chance. He's injured, and I made up all these excuses for him and trying to stay positive because he was a number 2 pick. But then he just showed every reason why I thought he was gonna be, not that guy. And so my perception of him was exactly what I thought, and so I can't really change that to your point. But I'm trying to think of somebody that I was wrong about.
Okay, let's use an
Shea.
example.
I feel like Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, I was wrong about. I didn't say he was going to be trash. I just never thought he'd be this good. Like I saw him, and I was like, he's a lot like De'Aaron, but not as athletic. And he wasn't that skilled at Kentucky. I don't care what anybody says. If you go back to his Kentucky days, he wasn't. So I was like, he's a good player. He's safe. I said he plays good defense, but that's about it. I said, and then he just now his guns blazing. Like he's just so good. So that might be a guy where I was wrong. I thought Wendell Carter Jr. was going to be better than Marvin Bagley. I feel like he is better, but not by a lot. I was high on Miles Bridges. He showed a lot of signs last year, and I was like, okay, that's the player that I thought he was going to be. And then we saw what happened with his personal life.
Yeah, I mean, I think there have been guys like, for me, the specific example was Andrea Bargnani. I was extremely high on him. I got to attend his draft party.
Was it because he was European?
No. Partly because I had seen him play the year before in Treviso, and I was just amazed. And I spoke to a scout over there, and they were just like, it was a coach, actually. He was a coach, and he was just like, this guy is going to be so much better than Dirk. Like, he's got Arvydas Sabonis stamped potential. And to be honest, when I saw him there, and this is kind of like why Pensare basketball is so aggressively like supporting Scottie, because when I saw him in Treviso, this guy was unrecognizable. I never saw that version of him. And I don't mean like how he's gaining separation, how he was shooting, how he's defending. I'm just talking about who he was, the passion that he's playing with. That shouldn't change. When you level up, it shouldn't change. You shouldn't lose your joy for the game. Right. And when I saw him come here as a rookie, I mean, like I had a friend on the team who was a player on the team, and he kept me abreast of what was going on with him, and I would always check in with him. And every time we would talk, we would get through the pleasantries, and he's like, okay, just ask me how your favorite player is doing, because that's what I really wanted to know. How is Andrea adjusting? Right. And it was great for him in his first year. He was really happy. He was, I think, the runner-up for Rookie of the Year in his first year. So he wasn't a bum. He wasn't Marvin Bagley, I'll tell you that. Yeah. He was really talented. He had a 20-point per game, season. And Jorge Garbajosa was here in that year. And you remember him?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And Garbajosa goes down. The Raptors basically stretch or waive him the next year. And that was his biggest supporter on the team. That was his vet. That was his best friend. And suddenly they start losing more and more of those guys. Rasho goes. Rasho was another guy who was close to him. Then Roko Leniukic is out. That was a guy who was somewhat close to him. Uroš Slokar. There's like a lot of guys that they had imported to make his transition easier. They had Maurizio Gherardini, who was kind of, known to him. They had done a lot to make sure that he was sort of protected. But obviously, as you say, the politics of NBA locker room, people don't understand why this rookie is playing big minutes. And so the first year he sort of came off the bench a little bit, right? Rasha was
Mhm.
starting with Chris Bosh, and he was coming off the bench, and people were kind of cool with it. Hey, you know, this guy, this prospect, whatever. But suddenly, as you know about NBA contracts, he's making more money than a lot of people by his second year of that first overall pick, right? And now he's
Mhm.
got the starting spot. So Jermaine O'Neal, when he was traded over here, he was a
That's right. That's right.
huge supporter of Andrea. Like he loved him. He just glowingly praised him. I remember having a conversation with Jermaine O'Neal, and he was just like, dude, this guy is special, special. That was just, I believe, his
Mhm.
second year or third year. And then it just went downhill after that because they tried to play him at small forward in the playoffs. It absolutely failed. He's a 7 foot guy. They got him in the first year. The second year, they got him to like bulk up to be a center. And then the third year, they're trying to play him at small forward. It was just a developmental failure. And
Right.
by the third year, I was like, this guy's lost all joy. He looked like he was dead walking through the media. And I'm just like, nobody really protected him. People started talking shit about him. You know, in the media, they started questioning his desire. He's not rebounding. Well, I mean, there's a lot of bigs now who don't rebound super well that are stretch bigs, switch bigs like him.
Yeah.
So I guess like part of my thing
You played in
is
the wrong era, man.
he really did play in the wrong era because everyone was saying he's a bum because he shoots so many threes. But now it's like that's all people want to do. And the crazy thing to me is, you know, I don't want the same thing to happen to Scottie. Now, asterisks
It's
here,
not.
it's
It's
not going to happen to
he's
Scottie
too
because
good. He's
Scottie
too good of
loves
a player.
number one, he's too good of a player. Number two, he loves the shit too much. Like Scottie hoops. Like Scottie, like you couldn't keep Scottie away from basketball. Scottie enters a mall, he's probably trying to dunk something into the trash can. Like that's how much Scottie loves basketball. So
Right.
I'm not worried about Scottie the way I was worried about Andrea. But I will
Right.
say that politics, locker room politics, the media, there's a lot of things. I mean, Andrea, it's on you, right? If you fail in the
Yeah.
NBA, partly it's always going to be on you. But there's a lot of young players, I believe, that don't get a fair shake, right?
But if it doesn't work out for Scottie, just say hypothetically in Toronto, he's gonna get a second and third chance anywhere else because of his 6'8" frame with 7'4" wingspan, incredible IQ. Like those don't grow on trees.
They don't. But, you know, if you take, like, I think that these fundamental years, like, I think the age between the ages of about 13 to 25,
Mm-hmm.
those years, they don't come back. You don't recover that at 27, 28. You don't reclaim someone. I know a lot of people want to, you know, even consider like Anthony Bennett right now, Michael Beasley. There's a lot of guys who have big frames, but I mean, you can't reclaim that lost glory because those years are fundamental. And if you're spending them relegated to the bench, stapled to the bench, not playing, you know, yeah, there's some guys who push through it, guys with legendary work ethic, like Drazen
Right.
Petrovic was a great example of a guy who pushed through it somehow. But I think most guys, they sink emotionally, mentally, they lose passion for it. They see the other side of it. They see the business side of the NBA. They see the politics. They see, you know, what they
There's
have
a
to deal
lot of
with.
those guys.
There are a lot of those guys.
A lot of those guys.
Like, do you recall any young players that you think kind of didn't get a fair shake in Sacramento?
I don't know if not a fair shake, but a guy that lost confidence right away that was just abundantly so talented was Ben McLemore, right? Kansas kid. Extremely he fell to number 7, and that was the Anthony Bennett draft. The
I
crazy
liked him. I
the
liked him a lot.
fact that he went number 1 kind of screwed up the whole draft, and the Kings had promised CJ McCollum that year that they were going to draft him at 7, but because Anthony went number 1, Ben dropped to number 7. At that point, the Kings were like, "Well, shit, we can't pass up on arguably the number 2 pick, right?" Because before that, he was regarded as a top 3 pick in that draft, and they were like, "Well, man, we kind of have to take him now." So that's how you get all the memes of, "Oh, well, they promised CJ," and well, they did promise him. Like they brought him in for a second workout. I do recall that, and that's just how the draft went. Like sometimes you just got to take best talent available, right?
I
That
kind of
he
started that, by the way. By the way,
Yeah, I
I
remember
started
that.
that.
That shit
Yeah,
went viral for you, huh?
it did. One point, like I was almost 2
Yeah,
million views.
yeah,
Holy
that's
shit!
funny.
There's not one person that didn't hear about that. Honestly, there's no shade to Sacramento. I love what your team is doing right now. That
Yeah,
was just
yeah.
like,
It's
if
fact.
anything, it's just
They were
yeah.
dysfunctional. They were
The
dysfunctional.
Raptors were too.
Yeah, it's and again, man, it's just part of like this cycle of And the Kings are the most dysfunctional outside of any team because they've screwed up so many drafts. The only one that they've gotten right was De'Aaron Fox and Boogie, but even then, Boogie wasn't the leader that he should have been. But other than that, I mean, they have failed just miserably.
You know, a lot of people have compared Scottie Barnes of to I can't believe I'm even saying this out loud. Michael Carter Williams.
Yuck.
Um, I agree. I think
Who
it's
said
completely
that?
ridiculous. A lot of people actually, a lot of people. Twitter is full of it, and there's a very popular YouTuber that I'm just not even going to let the. I'm not going to give him the clout, but he has like 85,000 followers,
Jesus Christ.
85,000 subscribers, and he literally said, "I'm getting shades of Michael Carter Williams." But I will tell you that one player that at least
Raptors Digest or what?
no. Raptors
Oh.
Digest doesn't have that. No, dude, Thinking Basketball just rated Scottie. You remember last year we did that
I
exercise?
love thinking basketball.
I love Thinking Basketball too, but you're going to be very surprised about this. You remember last year we did a little exercise of the top 25 players under 25, and I had Scottie, I think, third, behind Jason Tatum and Luca.
Uh-huh.
You remember that? Okay, I also had De'Aaron Fox very criminally low on that list, if I
Uh-huh.
recall, given how he's playing this year.
Uh-huh.
Thinking Basketball just released their list. Do you know who is ahead of Scottie Barnes?
Uh-uh.
Kevin Herter. Can you
Under
believe that?
under 25?
Yeah.
That's crazy. Fuck no. I'm sorry. I got
So it's a bit of a conundrum. Anyways, today was just an absolute shitstorm of negative Scottie press all over the place. It was coming left and right. It was literally every time I
in
turned on my
basketball.
phone.
That's crazy.
It is crazy. I
Yeah.
mean, a lot of people follow him. Like
Yeah.
that's influence. I mean, the number of people that made videos today or wrote articles about Scottie, like if Scottie Barnes was a stock, right, today, he tanked 28% today, just one day alone.
What's Ben Taylor basing this off of what?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he's a really analytical mind, and I'm not going to stop listening to
So
him
are
because
Scotty's analytics really bad right now or what?
they're not great. I
Okay.
mean, they're not great at all.
I have to look at them.
Yeah, like I mean, the last two games. I mean,
What's his Raptor?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Okay.
It drastically dropped after the last two games. So I mean,
Oh,
if I consider just the last two games alone against the Lakers and the Magic, I mean, not that I ever put any weight into plus minus for a single game,
mm-hmm.
but he was like negative 23 or he was negative 13 or so against the Lakers in a game that they won by 13 points. He was negative 13. And then I believe he was negative 24 or negative 26 against the Magic in a game that they lost by like 2-3 points. So that is not going to, those two games are not going to do well for your analytics. In fact, in all honesty, like
I mean, he's a
he's,
plus everything. He's a plus 1.6. His offensive Raptors plus 0.1, so barely. Still a 68th percentile. That's still a B. His defensive Raptors plus 1.5, 80th percentile. It's an A minus. His Raptors when added is still a plus 1.6, which is the 69th percentile, which is a B. That's not bad for a second year guy who's on a slump
and playing through a slew of lower
of
body
injuries.
injuries.
Right.
Like, I mean, I've watched Scottie for
What are we
5+
talking
years now.
about? Yeah.
I've seen him move around the court. I've seen he's not Ben Simmons as an athlete. Like he's not
Right.
nearly that bursty but I've seen him like legit drop 360 without even thinking about it. Like he is 360 through the legs. Like he
Okay,
can.
so his playmaking talent right now is
Mhm.
still in the 90th percentile, A minus. His assist per 75 possessions is an A minus in the 84th percentile. Like, what are people talking about?
It's ridiculous. My God, like if
So
that's how you feel about.
his on ball perimeter defense is still in the 89th percentile, which is an A minus. I guess where he's struggling, if you want to say effort, right? It's just like his loose ball rec rate, which is a C minus. His pickpocket rating, which again, if people watched the Dyson Daniels video, he's like at an A. Scotty's at a D plus. Which again, to me, that's a lot of lower body injuries where he's not, as you said earlier, he's not as energetic per se
He's
on
not.
defense right now. So
Hmm.
this does make sense that it's a D plus. But the fact that he's still pretty good on ball, like A minus, I mean, damn, like what do you want? And he's literally guarding primary ball handlers, 14% of the time, secondary ball handlers, shot creators, which is the biggest one. He's in the 90th percentile. Like he's guarding really good players every night.
Yeah, so I mean, if you look at his analytics profile right now, you don't walk away thinking this guy's
He's
like
a
the
bum.
guy that
No,
exactly. You don't walk away thinking this guy's having like the worst second year of any first
no.
overall pick, or a worst. Like he is taken a step
Or
back from
just
last
watching the
year.
film, like both the analytics, and to me, I'm big on film and analytics as a supplement. I'm watching him like, yeah, he's struggling a little bit, but it's not like he's a bum, like he's Michael Carter Williams or Marvin Bagley. Like, come on.
Yeah, I think it's just, it's expectations people
Yeah,
had for him
that's
taking a
true.
jump. And I
That's
think he
true.
will take that jump. I think for anyone watching this who's kind of like concerned about Scottie, I still do believe that this year, I don't think you're gonna have to wait for next year. I think
No.
sometime around the All-Star break, maybe even in the next few weeks, you're
Wouldn't
going to
say
see him.
trade Gary Trent Jr., he'll be fine.
Yeah, I
Which is gonna
wonder.
happen. Like it's going to happen. It's just a matter of when.
Yeah, I think his and Gary's, play on the court. Like I've obviously been very critical of Fred and Pascal, but Gary to a lesser degree, just because I don't, whatever. He is what he is. I don't see him as a part of the future. I've never really seen him as a part of the
Right.
future for the Raptors anyway. Um, I don't know. I wonder what's going on with Scottie personally myself. But yeah, thanks for coming on and having this discussion with me, and allowing Raptor fans to understand a little bit more from your side of the perspective. Because again, if you've been a Raptor fan for the last 10 years, you're spoiled. You're spoiled as hell. If you've been
100%.
following this team since 2000, then you've been through hell. But Leo has been following the Sacramento Kings, and that was literally hell for the last 7-8 years. But this year, under Monty McNair,
Well,
like everything is just going smooth, and you got
Mike
what?
Brown, man, I'm so shocked.
Yeah,
Like I knew he was
he's a
a
good
good
dude.
regular season coach, but when I and I told you this, his press conference, I was like, dude, this guy brings an energy into the building. Like when he speaks, you listen, and I was just like, what the hell? Now it's like, okay, he's a big talker, which is great. It
Hmm.
sounds like a great salesman. Can he get the X's and O's, and can he command the locker room? He has done that, and guys
Yeah,
have bought in.
it
Like
helps.
De'Aaron
It
Fox is
helps.
playing defense.
It helps
Like
to have
it's
it helps to have Domas as well, man. Like that guy's one of
yeah,
the highest
100%.
character guys. Um, and I
Although talking about media perceptions, he was labeled as a guy that had a bad attitude in Indiana towards the end of his tenure. So, and he is like the
the
nicest
nicest
human
guy
being
in
you'll
the
ever
world.
meet in your life. I'm like, what the? And again, full circle. That's the whole purpose of this show, right? Media narratives are insane. Depending on who you talk to, maybe he had a bad day, and he said something to a guy, and the guy wrote a piece or a hit piece in this case, and he said that he was not, he had a bad attitude. I'm like, no,
I really like him, and I think first of all, it maybe I'm biased because his dad
his
is literally
father.
one of my favorite players
Yeah.
of all time ever. But I've talked to his brother before as well, so like yes, I know that he's a good
He
person. I know
just
that
had
he
his
comes.
baby, just got married. Like he's ready to settle down in Sacktown, and he loves it. So
Yeah, and he's committed to actually changing things there, and yeah, I think it's awesome what's happening for you guys. But for Raptor fans out there, you haven't heard of these leaks. You haven't heard of guys being
in a long
discontent
time.
and demanding trades. That really hasn't happened here, right? If it has happened, and of course it has happened. Yes, it has
Sure.
happened. We heard about Kyle Lowry being traded after the fact. We heard that DeMar DeRozan, messaged his agent saying, if he's out, I'm out. Get me out of here after the fact. But we heard about it 6 years after it happened on a
Yeah.
podcast. These things happen in every team, but they don't get out. And so the central point of this video was really to ask Leo, like, why does he think these things are getting out, and really to just explore this idea. So thanks for coming on, man. I really do appreciate it. It's about 4 a.m. over here. That means it's like really late for you as well, but thanks for having this discussion with me. Leo is at Basketball Zone. Awesome videos, huge. If you're a Toronto Raptor fan, there's tons of Raptors content there. There's Sacramento Kings content, NBA content. Just dropped an awesome video on Dyson Daniels where Leo and I sort of tag teamed why we really believe in this young player and think he's going to be great. So make sure to hit subscribe on Leo's channel. Make sure you hit subscribe on Pensare Basketball, and catch you guys next time. Peace. If you made it to the end of this video, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate you checking this video out, and let me know in the comments below what you think about the conversation that Leo and I just had. I'm sure we can have an even more interesting conversation in the comment section. And, I'm just worried, personally, because this is not a leaky organization. I've always had so much trust in Masai and Bobby and their judgment and how tight-lipped, uh, look, players are human beings, and nobody wants to have their dirty laundry aired out for the media and for the whole world to scrutinize. And whatever some players are going through, it certainly does not help to have some of these articles coming out. I do believe in the freedom of press, but I do believe in honest coverage. And so if everyone is on equal footing and these things are coming out, I'm totally fine with it. But if one or two guys are being protected while everyone else is being thrown under the bus, that's when I draw the line and I say that is foul. So, that's sort of my perspective on it. You be sure to let me know yours. And yeah, make sure to hit subscribe if you like videos like this. I do want to bridge Pensare basketball from just me talking to having insightful guests. I do know a lot of people across the league, and Leo's been a friend of mine for the past 2 years. I've obviously done some videos over at Basketball Zone, but as these conversations get a little deeper, as the following gets bigger, as this channel continues to grow, I'm sure that you can expect more and more of these conversations to happen. So thanks for checking this out. Again, make sure to like and subscribe, and definitely make sure to subscribe to Leo's channel. And one thing that you can do, if you haven't checked out some of our other videos, be sure to check those out. It absolutely kills the algorithm in a big way. And by kill, I mean it does great things for the algorithm when you go from this video and you check out one of our other videos. So, if you haven't watched some of our other videos, there's all sorts of cool stuff. There's video breakdowns, there's game analysis, there's rants, there's all sorts of stuff. This is not a channel that is specifically one thing, but it is specifically true. It is specifically insightful, hopefully, and it is usually contrarian and hopefully engaging and interesting stuff to learn the game through. And also, I do want to throw a shout out. I'm very proud of the video that we did on Basketball Zone for Dyson Daniels. I have a lot of faith in that young kid. So if you're curious about learning about young players across the league, or just learning a little bit more about how Leo and I interpret what stats are and what analytics we're looking at, I know a lot of people in the comment section have often asked for more of a deep dive into analytics. So let's check that video out. I think it's a really good video about a really good young player that I have a lot of faith in. And yeah, we're gonna look at hopefully in the next week or so, you'll see I'm gonna make a deep dive into Scottie's analytics. Unfortunately, it'll be a little bit dated by the time it comes out because I started working on it today. So his analytics will be, unfortunately, if over the next week they get worse, well then great. But if they get better, I'm sorry in advance that it'll be a little bit dated by the time the video comes out. But I'm looking forward to doing a deep dive into what Scottie does well, what Scottie doesn't do well, and hopefully that'll engage some of you, and maybe it'll even help some of you re-examine just how bad a season he's really having. All right, peace, guys.